Beijing di injiri mingi juno banjashin dado teba tembar chas chodang aji shomchashin membe semdan tembar chas da chowadang ajedang senada chado kande jigi namsha jundu ani rangyu me rangyu mashiwa chebe kande ji inbe inaya kechi di 아니 랑 좀전도 체네 랑 좀전도 체네 아니 지 디마송 세기 다 땅냥이 요즘에 아니 소소티 마땅체 아니 신디야 털샤리나 아니 신에 초당 마게디 신기마도 쇼면야지 디 요즘에 초당하게 shum자시 멤베선만 된다 차스 어디구나 따다도 수로 unmute.
So here it says about relinquishing the 10 negative actions and then always reinforcing your faith, and then it moves on to say destroy anger and conceit and be endowed with humility. And so here, this is talking about the sort of unpacified anger, sort of things like jealousy, anger, jealousy, our sort of pride, which we need to be able to overcome and destroy. But this is within our own, particularly within our own mind. So then if we understand within our own minds that we have all of these negative states of mind, anger, jealousy, pride, and we have a sense that those are not, that's not okay. It's not okay for us to remain like that, and then we make effort to try and overcome them. And then a sort of almost a sort of, in that sense, a sort of natural, in a sort of natural process of that, then we will start to be, when we see how we are, then we'll start to be endowed with humility, which understands this sort of, which sort of, the way of seeing ourselves as sort of lower than others in some way. So this understanding a kind of development of a sense of humility, of being, taking a sort of lower place in relation to other beings.
상승 탐지 방식신 파괴는 넓기 때문에 다 디나로네 기시유의 노벨 초월을 소화다 탐지 아니 용야디 랑좀진도 제들이 다 파괴 노르시네리 아니 말하는 저기 파람야라 얘기 돈에 아니 지게 타가도래 상디요 고방도에 충분히나 아니 정신기 지가서래 최유 초화들이 남셔준도 언제 초화디 지딘 디나로야 아니 지게 다나 가서래 지게 수수년다 아니 다다 데저를 파지기 등계잖아요. 저는 저의 제일 전에 등어라는 주기 랑 경쟁도 지금 땅은 저에게 내가 뒤가 샤제 다랑 진생다 당다 진생들이 그거 맞듯이 그거 정말 신이 진생이 쳐도 제제 어제 주셔야이나 아니 최주 좋아서 최대 아니 말하는 저 전주 생각이다 최제단도 최주 좋아서 라와도 아주 계속 좀 쉬어라게 아니 준주스 지게 전주 생배 저거는 좀 세선도지 어디들이 다 좋아지 엔게도 최고레스 밥에 홀리긴 뭐 자스
Sawa Padanan Shitila, Dylan Jabisa,
lobe chowa pangchashin chuli chowa chowa cha sangsing tamche pangchashin pakwe norje kebar cha.
Lobe chowa pangchashin, yeah. Take a minute to bring me down. Okay. It says in the root text, it says to us, abandon the sort of unconstructive ways of livelihood and take up the livelihood, engage in a livelihood related to the way of the Dharma. Forsake material possessions and embellish yourself with the wealth of the noble ones. So relinquish long livelihood, which is the last lines of verse 6 in the Jimpa translation. Relinquish long livelihood and be suspended by ethical livelihood. Forsake material possessions and embellish yourself with the wealth of the noble ones, which is in that translation is the first 2 lines of verse 7. So here it's sort of an ethical livelihood, but in the root text it says it's sort of a livelihood connected with the Dharma. So for instance, we've set ourselves out to work on the path to liberation, and therefore we should not get caught up in wrong livelihoods, particularly sort of worldly livelihoods, where we try to achieve things really for the purpose of course, for oneself, but then a sort of limited number of people around us, our close and loved ones, and working only in whatever we wish to achieve for that much smaller purpose. But instead, taking this opportunity to do all of the activities that we do and wish to achieve, that it is sustained by an ethical livelihood, which means that it is focused on the purpose and welfare of all others, and taking it as an opportunity, taking these things as an opportunity in order to work for which will be a benefit and therefore benefit to others and therefore ethical. So in the Shantideva says in the title, the very title of his great text, the way of the Bodhisattva, or engaging in the conduct of the Bodhisattva, literally, then that title tells us, how we should be sort of framing everything that we do, or all of our livelihood, because it says, engaging in, entering into or engaging into the conduct and deeds of the Bodhisattva. So our way of livelihood should be in accord with that.
dunzi tamji pangche shi namyang tamji kaagu res. Namyang tamji kaagu na an telang gomba le nebar chasiki yo res. Ani gomba le nebi di indu tambi chebe tsi nam pangche shi ta kesang di kaja shi na namje dundu zhang menda rang zu jigi xie deya da che deya da zo tamji paagu rang sar xi che da dong han dambar chawa si du tambi ani su su gi jigi nyomo to sum mamboji kesa shi chi de sem de re de yin ya chi nam do mamboji tang yuan de ya sem ne ma zo ma so translate xin ye de ma de de zhe be ma de yang do ne de ma zhe ge da de bu de shi da ma ne dong ba cha de ne lama khenpo tong ye chi ko be ri ge ge cha lama khenpo shi che da ben lama ye na su su wu nu me ha shu se de lama 직제 다 캠버로 서로 수수이 지 개초는 것도 막 이제 가르쳐 주고 있는데 캠버들이 지금 제베가가 거기를 이렇게 버쳐서는 된지 통원도 전에 뒤를 레고드는 최가를 쉬어가다 최뒤 수수이 문에 전에 아니 루마 일순간에 배우기 최직 중성 세제 타지는 뉴전에 데려야 아니 그거도 끼고 그랬어 어디를 지금 진다.
So then it says to us, which is in the translation is lines 7, fourth lines of verse 7, where it says, avoid all trifling distractions and reside in the solitude of wilderness. And then it says abandon frivolous words and constantly guard your speech. It's the first 2 lines of verse 8 in the Jimpa translation. And here the first 2 lines. That's right. The first 2 lines of verse 8. So one of the big sort of distraction or the thing that we constantly caught in is the talking about all kinds of things, sort of frivolously and meaninglessly talking about all kinds of things, and this is sort of driven by the 3 poisons in our mind, which could then create a lot of sort of all kinds of different kinds of thoughts and thinking, which then find their way into expression in our speech. So what Atisha is saying to us here is avoid all forms of sort of meaningless talk and make sure to guard yourself against guard your speech against engaging with these things, and avoiding and in terms of avoiding all trifling distractions and residing in the solitude of wilderness, then this also sort of is really sort of talking about, the essential point there is to avoid all of the distractions of mind that sort of drag us away from the Dharma. So, and then in the first 2 lines of verse 8, where it says to us, the last 2 lines of verse 8, where it says, when you see your teachers and preceptors reverently generate the wish to serve. So, particularly this, our gurus and masters that we meet, and all the other sort of these very learned kind of beings who have studied or have done a lot of practice, the kempos and preceptors. And it's so important for us to show respect to them, but particularly what is important in terms of showing respect is showing respect in terms of putting into practice the things that we've heard from them, and the things that we have been explained to us by them. That's particularly, it's important to conduct ourselves in the way that they have explained things as a way to show respect for them.
Mm. So this in here respect to your teacher. Unless you don't see some changes in you, the teachings that you receive from your teacher, and then you don't see any changes in your life, changes in your practice, then how much you say, I have a huge devotion to my Guru. And then it's more, if you watch your way of thinking, it is more like you feel like I have to do it, I have to respect my teacher. Then it's forcing yourself. And how long are you going to force that? Not for long. But if you feel that this teaching really significantly changed my life, then it's very difficult. Even your teacher kicked you out, even your teacher scolded you in the crowd, and oh my goodness, whatever you do with this. This is nothing, whatever my teacher did to me, I am there for that reason. So this is kind of a stable, this is something that we need to look, this kind of antidote. Have you ever got it when you took the initiation, Bodhicitta, whatever teachings, that kind of change. And that requires not only one-time listening, it requires maintenance. It's easy to buy a car, but maintenance is more difficult, very difficult. So maintenance, more every day you love how much that practice, maintenance there. So this is the reason, respect to the Lama is not like Atisha is saying you have to respect. It's more right. Once you have to see this teaching, this advice, this guidance becomes so personal, so precious to you, automatically respect will be there. So, when you see your master and teachers, do whatever necessarily. So do whatever necessarily kind of respect or service you need to do it because you feel this so precious that you got it to do it. So that's what he is guiding us there. Yeah. Division temperature, division, that division, what else? Kembola is a division to give us a Kansa Chugi Mijin, the Ladambu sent it to be Duji Kansa Chugi Mijin said the Peje Tonam Sungumetro. Then Ladambu sent Jana said to be any Lama Shuba and Lama Shubi, any Suzuki, Globa, there was Sudon said. Ladambu sent Jana. The way she gave us, and then so with Kang, Derby, and then Howard on the Ninjin would Guliki, then Chevonichi, Ninjin would Guliki, Mangaji country, get to Tingidu, Ragaduna, and tell her, then be she gave us the Sunday Jumdi, tell Lavas on your Ramada, Dinga, Razo, some then be she gave a chase. And then be she gave a 야, 총 상보 총바 제가 로바 커뮤니티야 보고 좀 봐. 요즘에 디베이트 방자시. 저는 디베이트 보세요. 디베이트 보세요. 그래서 통해 상벽이 제가 아니 디베이트 보세요. 디 강사 님도지 대회가 뭐야? 아니 지기 배주 개개 매회 통에 능경기를 좀 수소는 거에 모두나 딜을 디베 trouble is 아니 니에는 단기 디버도 지난 직도다 제세 통해서 몇개 되는 게 나오죠.
Yeah. Here, the next lines, which are the first two lines of verse 9, where it reads, towards wise beings with Dharma eyes and towards beginners on the path as well, recognize them as their spiritual teachers. Sorry, the first three lines of verse 9. And here we can particularly relate to towards the wise beings with Dharma eyes. Those would be the Arya beings who've attained the path of seeing or higher. And then the beginners of the path would be those who have entered the path, so they've entered the Bodhisattva's path, but are on the paths of accumulation, preparation, etc. So they're still considered as what we call ordinary beings, but they would be considered the beginners here in this verse. And then whatever the qualities that we seek to attain from them, and whatever sort of they are able to, these beings are able to teach us, whether it's about, instructions on developing compassion or the whole range of instructions that they're able to give us. So because they are able to help us with the qualities that we wish to achieve, then we recognize them as our spiritual teachers. And yes, so then, I guess it's on me.
Okay. So here, when saying, when once you found the perfect teacher who is giving you the right attitude to generate bodhicitta or the great compassion, more here is focused on great compassion, then it is very important not only the teacher but right environment should be there. So right environment or wrong environment, what is bad friend or good friend, the Geshe Tomen Sambo, he explains in the 37 practices of Bodhisattva, very beautifully he said, what is the bad friend is, when you sit with him, all his negative qualities, you get that without any effort. That is the quality, or that is the definition of bad friend. Once you stay with that one kind of person, automatically you get all these good virtues, the positive qualities. Then this is called your teacher, a good friend, a good company. So similarly here, Atisha is also saying you should stay away or abandon the bad friends. And saying like good friend, not other than teachers and the right friends. Dang midi ki senpang shings, dangwa midi senpang shing, kando dewa kawar chas, dangwa midi senpang kore sedu jambe, ani shingi yang rangyu sen kubar chalata, ani madewa shang jambe, ani dangwa midi senpang shing, kando dewa kawar chas sedu jambe, devu ngana drogore se, dewa se di, so sabati. Sebegana ne andu zambe dewane boyachi. Tadi nganju kari kogu slavina namgyu seba gombe kabriya. Ani nganju chik checho mari lem made kate maja sechi sen narola ani chiki karisa kore pigidiri kate jani shchone maja sen sono ju kodegile de zo seba seyade ani rangshingi rangde yubi dewa de chola madams. Around you, Diki the Tramadam says, Kogo Yore. Chezanga Sevatabu Kotu me, Dibata Kaza, Shadam to Digobe Soyati. Chedanga Seva Gombe to Zero, Seva Gomatuna, and Susu Sashi to Gawada, Susu Sashi to Mingda, Susu Sashi to Kari in some Trata Yowa. When they do some bit, they did Dewa the Meromasus. Kando Dewa Lord Charles.
So here, then it reads on, renouncing negative friendships and relying on the spiritual friend, as I explained in the previous piece. So therefore, giving up these negative friendships and being able to rely on our sort of spiritual guides. And then it says in the second line, so verse 10, dispel hostility and unpleasantness and venture forth to where happiness lies. So here, these negative states of mind, of a feeling of sort of hostility, resentment, anger towards someone, and also our own feeling of sort of unhappiness, uncomfortableness, unpleasantness within ourselves. The best sort of antidote or counteract to those is the cultivation of patience, and here. It's sort of restraint from, for instance, wishing to sort of, when some circumstance happens to us and we wish to sort of challenge that or retaliate in some way, sort of holding back from that. And so this patience, and the patience to be able to deal with our uncomfortable or unhappy feelings, and also getting rid of our hostility is the thing which brings us forth to where happiness lies, as it says in the last line. So it's said that there is no greater sort of positive quality or virtue than patience, and there's nothing more terrible than anger, as said in one text. And so, because that anger will waste and destroy the merits, all of the positive virtue and merit that we have accumulated. So therefore, by cultivating patience with these difficult factors, we then venture forth to where the happiness lies. This is how we venture forth to happiness.
In one video clip, I have seen this one. Looks very intelligent, but for outside he does not appear like intelligent. But he gives this definition of his understanding of what is definition of anger. I really love his explanation. He says anger is a punishment, the punishment to yourself that somebody did a wrong thing and you are taking that punishment on yourself. That's actually true. If somebody says a bad thing, whether the bad thing that exists on you or not, but you are taking very strongly heavy on you. But maybe he is doing a party, he is really full of God and what he has said, but you are still bringing this discomfort within you and you say, somebody ruined my day. So actually, somebody didn't actually ruin your day. You are taking this everywhere with you. So that's on you. Yeah. It's not somebody told you, please take it home. Yeah. So here Shantideva is saying, to protect the great compassion, we need to protect, we need this shield. That shield which we need to feel the warm-heartedness and a great connection to the sentient beings. Also really, what could really take down this relationship, not if we don't think carefully, all these negative emotions. So this is where he's saying, use this, the technique what normally we use, now because this is so precious, the sentient beings are so precious, and now don't, because normally we use, if I say something bad to somebody, when this say something bad to me, if I say bad to him, people go, what will people say to me? Or the little bit of understanding of Dharma, or then I cause any maybe accumulated bad negative karma. Its reason is only you. Now the reason is because my main mission to survive, taking breath, is for them. And this way of thinking, if I cannot hold this shield so dearly, I will 100% fail to give him what he really needs. That's very powerful practice. So that's the reason Shantideva is reminding how to use these old remedies. 다 강나 차고 관자시 차고 매를 맞아. 차고에 대원 된도에 도지 타르 소리 줘버지. 다 제장을 차고세야지. 아니 그런 주비 대화대화가 차가지고 공도 선고요는데 정보시에는 차고에 대화대를 차가 대화도 통두지만도 눈이 침부지 되기도 전에 네 차고도 방법이요. 그래서 아니 대화 도에다 봐주셔. 덴로도 봐주셔. 선을 디리지 띠 말이스. 어디 정도와? 나?
양이 지선 때때
고마워요. 차비. Yeah, I can say that in English, no problem. This line which Kajurudo number 11. Abandon the attachment to all things and ride free of desire. Attachment fails to bring even the higher realms. In fact, it gives life of true liberation. So, normally, the hard part for us to abandon the attachment, because whenever we have an attachment, there is a bit of joy, there is a bit of comfort. So due to the comfort, we cannot let go the attachment. We are not thinking about that, it's mistaken mind. Maybe I'm putting too much information in there. We don't care about that, because we only care about this limited happiness. So it's more like this moth flying on the borderland. Who cares only about the beauty of the they lied, and they just wanted to enjoy it. And then what they get is a pain, suffering, and even they die. Similarly for us, we think in order to gain joy, we need attachment, which is such a wrong idea, because the attachment is a mistaken mind, which you think there will be joy, but it will bring lots of suffering. So that's why in English, attachment has a little bit of connotation of negative. So whenever you are in a relationship, you will never write to your girlfriend saying, I have a strong attachment to you. You will say, I love you so much. But the real down there, you need to put on footnote is attachment. Then you know how you have built a relationship. So it's because it's not because it covers the layer of this attachment. We don't use this because it sounds like the reason I have fallen in love that person is I am more important. In order to bring my happiness, I want you. That you don't want to say it. We want to cover that. And then the problem in the future is that person's happiness never matters. Your happiness more matters. That's why there are lots of breakups. Yeah, so that's why here it's saying, forget about desire or attachment can bring liberation, but even it cannot bring a temporarily successful happiness. 강도 대회 최동화 내내 따로 배워서 토마르점바 강인바 당부팀이 주자대 대단한 군력체 신론이가 좀 주스 다디 다다 지제디 가와리 켄에 되고 다디 베나란주게 베나 아니 닝지디 senjen songwang, ningji sanglo de songbe chedo, ani kongro ki wondu zambe, ani oda kongro ki ane dingma song nyambege, ani sebege, nyamnenge pen, kongro ki nyimege yang do gomang do zambe, diga na kando chido shu tache, ani go dende chido wondu, kando chido ki ta seba sinye tele ya, marang shu ki ani, chigi tawang jeba chi sebe mato we pato, di nyamne chego es. 통화점바 강인바 아니 당부팀이 들어차대스 디마치르시 서버라서 땅땅땅 한테는 야 샤바지 냠nen들 가벼운 로이나 강도 당부 서베냐는데 야고 좀 맞죠 애니버지 추르면서 왔다 아니야 가르리냐니 소소 젠더에 디에 맞죠 니가 매 차를 다 알았어 제가 당부 가르리 있는 일을 슉때 땡땡 딱지 니가 좀 주세요 이렇게 좀 그래서 맞아들으셔.
So here in verse 12 now, reading verse 12, it says, when you encounter that causes of happiness, in these always persevere. Whichever task you take up, first address this task primarily. In this way, you ensure the success of both tasks, where otherwise you accomplish neither. So here, for instance, if we're someone who is, taken, in whom compassion has taken hold of us, and then we understand that negative states of mind are, such as anger, as described above, are so damaging, and then we really want to practice patience in relation to our difficulties, and so we contemplate the positive qualities of developing patience, and we identify the faults which anger has, and therefore and then on the basis of this, as much as we're able to, understanding those things, as much as we're able to, whenever these difficult situations, situations which are difficult to bear arise, then we practice what we have learnt as much as we can. But then, so let's say that person is then engaged in that very strongly in that kind of practice. But then, instead of so this is the taking up this task first, then we should primarily address that task and primarily focus on that. Instead, if we practice a little bit of patience and then we feel, oh no, I should switch to another kind of practice, such as engaging in practicing in terms of ethical conduct and discipline, and then we sort of switch our attention and focus primarily away to another area of practice. Then, as it says in the text here, in this way you ensure that if you do as above and you focus primarily on the first task, you'll ensure the success of both tasks. Whereas if you switch around from practice to practice, you will neither accomplish the first one that you set out or the subsequent one. So it encourages us to focus primarily on a particular task, such as developing patience and controlling our anger in order to persevere in these causes of happiness.
디고 지금에 실라도 전에 양 심기 수르지기 나네 양 마제 제제 당아 디고 지금에 마 개조 뷰다고 쉬우지 제게 답에 쉬우지 인세제야 때 캔벌레 인가 요레스 디두 아니 신의 라면 담아 정보를 라면 담아라 가려졌으나 아니 심기 싱 되바다 아니 심기 싱디야 this 마자라게 Dhamma yudu chambe, Dhamma yudu yang yang do tengu yores. Dhamma tengu kabla, ane ngaje chaya ki nyingbu tuli yunwa mena de jidane da mambu shivu yore sangi ki yunden tenpa dang, ane lami yunden tenpa dang dezo ki tohne ngaje de tende chaya yore, da ngaje nang, ane da ngaje chi shui lau de da du chambe, dang zing yudu chambe, ane niga tongpa nidu gom, tanda de, da yu da yu jing, so so dang. 아니 소소히 진행하게 되면 냠낸 체계인지 닝지 냠낸 체계인가 소소선데 닝지생에 대한 아니 누가라 냠낸 체계 닝지양 장시지 마줘봐 아마양 장시지 마줘봐 아니 도스 네가 네 장시지 마줘비 뭐도 스타운데 전에 아니 신이 아게디 처음이 병하게다 아니 마세도 되는 미외 마게 통지만 좀만 되잖데 강도 차별 유주 어디래 디공부 동반이도 곰스지 녀랑 마게 자야 다도 등진 시위치도 마게 곰단 지라 디슈도 강도 차별 유중제 시도다 말한 주기 러시아인도 송베 유다 냠샤의 제수 상담으로 냠샤의 제수 아니 차별 유당 아니 셰당제시 유도주도 통도 전에 아니 나르기 동반이 공부티 슈기 아니 좀 맞다고 신도 다디가서 아주 이게 뜻이 되는 그런 신호 다 지진한데.
So here doing covering now verses 13 and 14 in the translation where it says that since you take no pleasure in negative deeds when the thought of self-importance arises, and at that instant deflate your pride and recall your teacher's instruction. So it can happen to us that we have a real sense of not wishing to engage in sort of negativity, and that we have a strong desire to cultivate virtue. But in what can happen to us in one corner of our mind, whilst we have this, generally positive outlook, is that we can become a little bit filled with our own, bloated with our own sense of self-importance and pride in being virtuous, and pride as being someone who wishes to cultivate virtue and wishes to avoid negativity, kind of rising within us. And at this time, what Atisha advises us to do is to deflate that pride, that bloated sense of self-importance and pride in our own sort of, goodness, so to speak, by recalling Atisha's personal instructions and that have been given to us, because within those instructions are contained many sort of reasons which help us to understand the sort of the more of the sort of nature of things, and also the disadvantages, etc., of these states of mind. So when we recall our teachers' direct sort of personal instructions to us, they will help to bring down this sense of pride and self-importance. And then, but also the opposite can occur to us, as it says in verse 14, where it says, "When discouraged thoughts arise, uplift your mind and meditate on the emptiness of both." When objects of so just those first three lines, first of all. So we can also become discouraged. We can feel sort of down about ourselves and kind of depressed or down about ourselves. And so at that time also, Atisha advises us, when discouraged thoughts come to us, we should also lift up ourselves a little, to sort of encourage ourselves and to give ourselves enthusiasm and confidence. Then it says, and meditate on the emptiness of both. So this is whether we're feeling proud or whether we're feeling deflated or discouraged. Then it says to us, meditate on the emptiness of both. When objects of attraction or aversion appear, view them as you would illusions and apparitions. So we hear, for instance, if we're a person who practices compassion and maybe we have too strong a sense of this solid, inherently existent I who is doing this solidly inherent existence practice of compassion, then the emptiness, the understanding of emptiness in both in terms of the practitioner, oneself, and the actions or activities, the Dharma practices that we're doing, all of them lack any form of intrinsic existence. And so this takes away the sort of basis by meditating on emptiness and the selflessness of things. This helps get rid of the self-grasping, which acts as a root to these discouraged or inflated states of mind. And then with this also, we could relate these last two lines, when objects of attraction or aversion appear, view them as you would illusions and apparitions. So you could also relate the line of meditating on the emptiness of both to the sort of meditative equipoise of emptiness, and then this, then in the post-meditative session, where all kinds of objects then appear to us, whether they appear as in an attractive manner or as they appear in an unattractive manner, but then we would see them in this sort of post-meditative equipoise in a way that, is said in the post-meditative state that you will see things as illusion-like. And so this connects then back to what we were talking about in the Guide to the View, where it talks about understanding phenomena to be like illusions. So we can connect these lines here with that.
Mm-hmm. So now we don't need to expand, elaborate much on that, because now I hope you have become expert on the emptiness. Because whatever I know, I have thrown up towards you, and now nothing more to explain. So somehow I just had a strong feeling of remembrance of Marba and Meganepa bit here. So I will, it somehow connects to the great compassion. So I'm thinking of this the bond between a student and a teacher. So the great compassion we all heard the master Marpa. He can be very tough and then quite strict towards America that we have learned. But many of us which don't know how sweet, how gentle, how kind Marpa can be. So Marpa went to India for 3 times. So you know that kind of time. Travel to India is a big thing, a huge journey. It's going like you're going to the Mount Everest. So you go there, when somebody goes there, it's like not much hope coming back because many people die because of the climate. Huge differences there. And then even India is very famous of the land of bugs, insects. So sometimes they call land of Aryas, sometimes they call land of insects. So Marpa traveled 2 times for receiving teachings from Naraba. But when on the second trip to India, Naraba gave a teaching, and then one cycle of teaching he didn't give because he said, you are not the right person. In future, he said, you are not the right person. So Marpa went back to Tibet and then gave lots of teachings. And Miradaba was putting so much effort in the cave. And then in a dream, that he had lots of visions of Dakinis that Miradaba is capable of teaching for that one, which Naraba haven't given yet. So on the way, he left Tibet and said, journey to India to receive this teaching, not disturbing Miradaba meditating. He himself goes there, quite aged. He goes there, India, for the 3rd time. For whom? For one sentient being, for Miradaba. He set the journey. On the way, he meets Atisha, and Atisha gives him a message saying, now I'm coming to Tibet to revive Buddha's teaching, so you are such a great translator, you please help me. And then he folded his hands, Marpa folded his hand and said, of course it will be such an honor to serve the great Atisha, which I really wanted to. But this time, to benefit a sentient being who is such an incredible student of mine, who's meditating, and I need this teaching, which Naraba is holding, and I have a great hope this will bring huge benefit for Miradaba. And he says the journey, saying goodbye to Atisha. Atisha gave him a hint, saying, in India now, they have a saying, Jebala Shepas. How do you translate? Jebala Shepa. In Jebala, 아주 다 아주 저바 캔사보든 나야 여러분 저바 시작했어 그러봐 사바다 빠빠이도 자는 저도 저바 behavior
conduct.
저바를 시작해서 저게 저러봐 대신 시작봐
Shepherd, gone beyond Shepherd, gone beyond gone beyond the conduct. So they're practitioners who have sort of gone beyond the ordinary ways of conduct of the world.
So his way of behavior becomes quite funny. So that's the reason, that's the one reason. He said, well, even you go to India, people say that the Naropa's way of behavior gone beyond our ordinary level. So be careful. So then he went and searched. But very difficult to find Naropa. And finally, and then he meets Naropa again. And then Naropa, a bit aged, and then said, I said, all the teachings are finished. Why did you come back? And then he said, this time is not for me. This is for my true son, Milarepa. And for him, I need this teaching. I came to your feet to receive this. So please give it to me so that I can give this to him. So then he gave the final teaching and take him back to Tibet and give to Milarepa. So when we talk about great compassion, this is such a great example. How much teacher can sacrifice to going to India, and for thinking it's not for me, it's for only him. How much that kind of compassion can bring. So this is something that we need to keep in our mind. The bond which teacher and the students bond once there is a great compassion. So incredible. And it's not about the matter of student or a teacher, but it's for all the sentient beings. We need to act like this. So this is why, unless we don't have a great compassion like that, it's a bit difficult. Yeah, so just it came, and then I thought, like, why not share? And so it just shared. That was it. Now, the most important part already I have explained. Now in a Tibetan way of saying, now the horse riding, the race of the horse has started. So now I'm going faster and faster. 어제 다 빌려 내고 준비 생각이라서 다왔죠. 왜대 몸을 내는 시리다 시 로신도 다게다니 맞아서 차가면 내려 차스. 네가 들도다. worse.
말에 디가 미니언 시그널 되게.
미니언 대어레지. 미니언 층 되게 다저신도 다왔죠. 류에 내고 준비 생각이라서 다왔죠. 왜대고만 내버쳐. 왜다 시 로신도 다게다니 맞아서 차가면 나버 차스에도 that words cousin has
that's 15, then 16. Roughly.
15 to 16
Yeah. So then we read verse 15, which says, "When you hear unpleasant words, view them as mere echoes. When injuries afflict your body, see them as deeds of past fruits of past deeds." So this way of also abandoning attachment and sort of anger and attachment in relation to these things. Oh, that's verse 15.
Okay. It sounds like yesterday when the musician was a musician to the Tibetan when he offered the songs of Milarepa. In that song is similar. It's very same, right? Rida Shiva Roshindo, Dagi Dagim Bachashin, Chagameva Navacha. Tata Yidam Tenjashin, Lelo Nyomle Chungitse, Yidam Sidi Yigi Tamjatrisha, Yigi Tamjatembu Chashin, and Lelo Nyomle Chungitse, Teze Dag Nyan Tanshin Sidi Gun, Susugi Gun Chumbadu Samaloni, Pichik Besha Maiba, Yintrin, the Digin never chesson, the Digin never chesson, that ring when the Senjan, yet the never the Digi chesson, yes, some of Moroma, the Digi Corsons, Chijin, but Cannibal, Taji Shiv, yours. Teze Dag Nyan Tanshin, Dushu Nimbu travel chance. Dushu said, but the Inji Sidan Dushu said, the Yorba.
Yes, it's really aesthetic practices. It doesn't
carry this meaning.
So Jinpa translates as a spiritual conduct.
Dushu said in Tibetan, Dushu has this connotation, this deep meaning. Tamemba Dulshuk said that. Dulshuk said that. Tamembe Rangavi Jabati Dul said it. Tamembe Rangavi Jabata Dul. Ani Shuk said it. Ani Tumbi 가져오는 투모 모임배기 다지게 라이처럼 이내래 아니야 지게 사미기 가리내기 저바 가리지 라보고요나 뒤저바도 내버리나 도와 투모 모임배기 다지게 라이내줘나 된들 주 아니 내버리나 네 두슈 세디 둘슈 세디 어디 구두디어다
Nanlo Shuira better.
Shupa is a dedication of a Shu is a Deva. Stay on.
Yeah, so here it's a word that doesn't really translate very well into, sometimes it's translated as modes of conduct or here spiritual conduct or sometimes ascetic practices, but I'd like to think of this more in terms of when we're doing the first of those words, dul in the Tibetan, I would like to think of it as having the ways in which we can tame or train ourselves away from ordinary forms of conduct and practice, or ordinary ways of thinking, this kind of thing. And then the shuk is to sort of abide in or remain in or to stay in uncommon practices, which would be such meditating on sort of uncontaminated states of meditation or engaging in sort of deity yoga practice and sort of abiding in those sort of pure practices. So this is a sort of more sort of the deeper meaning of what this term drushuk in Tibetan means. And before that, I also the first lines of 17, it says, "Always remain firm in your commitment." And when a hint of procrastination and laziness arises, at that instant enumerate your faults. So it's also, it's sort of this commitment to live free from attachment as mentioned above, but then, and our commitments, for instance, to bodhicitta, but then when those, our commitments to those sort of weaken, or laziness arises, or we sort of want to put them off, then we should, in terms of, we should enumerate our own faults. So think, I thought this, I did that, I was going to say this, I did say that, the way, all of the sort of faults that we have accrued, we should, it's actually a good practice almost to sort of say them out, verbally from our mouth, to enumerate them and to sort of recount them in that way as a way to help us to remain firm in our commitment. And then to recall the essence of spiritual conduct, as I've just explained.
How did you mean Buchambaji? 给的现在同学是新的送到马传言我送帮着心道路准备那个差，但先给你最主是给这个前辈呢，你先的呀那个这个前辈呢，看他不上去写的就是，那传言我送帮着心是就真的，这个龙囊的送到这里，给这戏剧要嘛这是。可能别这个中西戏这里拍中我的里呀，给写过有的是，你大多中的那个强，你定量不地区的。
So the next verse, verse 18. However, if you do encounter others, speak peacefully and truthfully. So these situations when we are engaged with other beings, and it's essential that we always remain sort of honest in our conduct and ways of dealing with all other people. So we should be sort of speak calmly and honestly to all of the beings that we encounter along in our lives, and we should not sort of, as it says, do not grimace or frown, but always maintain a smile. So we should always maintain this kind of sort of happy conduct and never sort of make sort of negative kind of faces, these grimaces or frowns. So this is the way to, when we are in our practice, when we encounter others.
One time I had such a privileged time to meet one of the greatest, highly realized and accomplished master in our lifetime, respected as he reached path of preparation. So I was very young, and then he sit above me, and then I had offered him a scarf, and then went for a blessing, and then he just stared at me, didn't say anything, just looked like this where I'm going to sit, and I sat below his throne, and then he continues to look like this. So I thought, highly realized, I don't understand. But if he has a little bit smile on his face, that would be perfect. Such a stupid me. But somehow I have this quotation from support letter from Atisha. So of course, the reason maybe he didn't smile because he might have seen something in me, all the negative emotions and the self-grasping, and then there's no way to smile on me. But anyway, I was like, first thing when you see the great master, you wanted to connect it, actually, isn't it? And then once you feel this wrathful face or just serious face, then you feel like anyway, just very stupid story. His one is Dalai Lama, always smile, fold his hand, all this. Normally we think maybe his one is doing this to bring harmony. But here, the great Atisha's guidance there. This is how we need to connect with he genuinely respects, sees the whole sentient being, such a precious. That's why automatically this comes with respect, smile, all this. So this is the quotation where we can get why His Holiness the Dalai Lama is doing that. Senam Gyundu Shanda Tongway Senam Miji Jinaka Tado Tambe Bangin Shin Semin Song Se Zoba Tamji Shija Dao Suna Demba Chance Da Sena Dang Jig Tado Sea Dang Deni Jig Zoba Sea Da Dezo Yong Zoba Da Martin Zendu Chelina and Tela Tamji Yong Dechi sena yongdeyachi, kondro yongdeyachi, karin yongdeyachi. Shen de shen pige tosala sha, ram masala derina, teda yongma tuyechi, yusambe, shachanga nyingji chimbo kibu du sechi. Zobatang ji guangshen, dalu suedang tenpa cha, suebatang tengu urisi, shen yum zendu cheba reisi, yusambe, shen yum zendu cheni, suebatang tenpa cha, yusambe, nyingji kiesagi shidi,原来还没学不上进用途的是，刚做的学不广播是一个人没花钱，我的这是大学不广播的差事。Unmute.
Yeah, verse 19 and 20 where it says, in general, when you see others, be free of miserliness and delight in giving, relinquish all thoughts of envy. So here, when we encounter others, it may encourage in us the sort of sense jealousy and sort of our own sense of miserliness, and also we should, instead of having those states of mind, because it's things like jealousy and miserliness are sort of things which are sort of more, which we are sort of more focused on ourselves, and so we should take delight in giving, and we should give up all thoughts of sort of competitiveness or jealousy as we encounter others, and then but it's for the welfare of others. Because all of this practice takes place in the context of for the benefit of others. And then it says in verse 20, to help soothe others' minds, forsake all disputation and be endowed with forbearance. So we should also not engage in this sort of complicated discussion or disputation when we encounter others. Because it says here in order to help others to sort of protect or to actually for us to protect others' minds. It says in the translation, soothe others' minds, but actually in the Tibetan it says to help protect others' minds. We should not engage in these forms of disputation, being miserly or having envy or jealousy for them. And we should be endowed with patience. So these are all for the purpose of protecting and benefiting other people, other beings' minds, and then endowed with this forbearance, which acts as helps us as a basis for developing compassion also for those other beings. So we should engage when we see others. This is how we should engage.
当我们面前少着面到了处的土下，现在那个帮着是可以水的那个家，现在咱们这边是宁吉偏生这个家，去了我们的心，看没得了对吧？当时的，今天让你看这些的，你当热瓦的那么多。 现在这个热瓦的那么多岁的，早年前有嘛的，开的这边呢，新语程度这边一张，这个热瓦的那么多的桃花赛的，早年的结果也没都是，你也刚才把的新语程度因是那个他结婚就准备，我是就我送去了的，没想的这个重点就吧，可以的这个去了那年看着是那个那是的结果也有嘛，是我刚没去。 少着面是就准备新的这个初步少啊，这个这里就是团到这边的呀，这个初步的这里位早年有嘛的是，但他们这年度下来推这差不多准备，我们是少着面，反正到了初步的差是，但新的这个是，深圳他们这让你年度的就通突破现在他，让做突破去，他新的差送是他，反正现在你要帮着新。 아니 그게 수준이 내려지 신 당화체도 다 개체셔게 신내야 즉 최셔라다 신내야 편도체도 타베야 딩네 닝지기 꾸내나네 지금도 지금도 닝지면이 돼 아니 딩지 체체 라면 담아도 아니 전체 개대양 지 심리 전주비 심리 꾸내나 닝지 꾸내나 만들어 체체 样都是这个让对的上面这样呢，样过年包的嘛，那边当然都是天气， 랑진진 느끼는 누구도 현재를 생각해서 레면도 세세 띵에 말도야 자주 동쇼로 정말다.
So then in we'll cover verses 21 and 20, part of 22, but firstly in 21 where it says, be free of flattery and fickleness in friendship, be steadfast and reliable at all times, do not disparage others, but always abide with respectful demeanor. So particularly in these first two lines, and sort of always being sort of honest and reliable in relation in our relations with others, stable and reliable, and we should, not having sort of in terms of our engagement with relationships with others, not having sort of fears or hopes or too many thoughts about the expectations about it or fears about it or all of our sort of thoughts that go on about these relationships, but having as our main purpose the welfare of others as the main purpose of our heart. So being reliable and steadfast in wishing the sort of welfare of others, and we're and obviously to not disparage others, but to abide with a respectful demeanor. And so here also this relates very much to for someone who is inspired by or enthused by such positive minds as compassion and bodhicitta, then we should always be aware of not allowing the self-cherishing mind to overcome us. So we constantly remember our Guru's instructions, personal instructions on these things, and we try to identify, is this for my own purpose, or is this self-cherishing, or is this for cherishing others and for the welfare of others? So we always look to put an end to self-cherishing whenever it arrives, and always to cherish others with this respectful demeanor.
Expectation. The expectation, I read somewhere on I think Instagram, it was so beautiful. Maybe most people know that there is a saying, it is from Russia, I guess, this folk tale, that one time man was passing through, and then on the way on the street, which is freezing out there, and then there's a baker. The baker actually, he's just staying there, a poor person. And then it's so freezing cold. So the person who was passing through kind of thought like, oh, poor person, I should offer him a jacket. And then he told that poor person, he said, I will give you a jacket. It's a very warm jacket, so you need to put that on because it's freezing cold out there. And then he goes, and then he went to meet up his friends, and he totally forgot to give the jacket to that person. So few hours or next day, maybe he went there and with a jacket and tried to give that person. The person was already dead. And there was a note to him saying, up to now, I was fine. And when you said, winter is freezing, and now you give me a jacket, all this, then I'd start feeling the cold. And then I have hope, worry, everything. That was a huge note. So it maybe it can be a little bit extreme in the story, but there's truth in that. So that's why, as a Bodhisattva, here, when we say, so no expectation. Even you give something, no expectation needed. If I give hundreds and billions, I never pay any for return. If that person is happy, that's what I need. So this practice will start when you have a great compassion. If you don't have a great compassion, you will always think like, I give this, then what will happen to me? Not, I will be super happy, because what will happen to me will be a reason. So that's what he's giving us this teaching. So Melam Chimbo Davarcha, Tether Chena, Sonam the Yishi Children of Jurus, Tatene Maranju, Jige, Tinji, Yinji, Singi, Kunin Nanchi, Yondu Zambi, Ani, Jige Harsore, Tamaranju, Tusum Sabi, Any Gewakde, the Sabi Naya, Teda Tanji, and Ancient simply Tanji to Darawajimato, any. I give you a son year, but I give Tarbaja Thomas said, and in my ditches a member. Kanji Sandy Yukoban talk good say, take the Sandy Yukoban's lover not to so, singing to say somebody, and Charbo is to some Giwachisava, and Lamichin Puchimboya, Moya. The name Sonam Simjanam Darson, Sonam the Simjanam Dars, you could use Cardosana. Sonam Gil, Sonam Sabegi, Dibu, Sonam Gil, Laje the Carrier, Sugutobe Chatri, Sugudi Carjana Gowers, Senjing turned to be Chatri. Sedan Sonam Simjan Dars. Tado Yana Dumbai, Tawana Sonam Kabisavas, Yana Dumba then the Sonam to the chair, Meduzambe, and Yana Dumbi, and Monam Chimbo Davarcha. Tedderchen, Sonam, Ishi Tony Zoberju. Sonam Choda, Ishi, Tony Manzovina, Sandy, good do to a Yomare, the Induzambe, Sonam Society, around that, Chimbatan, Chilum Sobo, Sobatata Tamji, Sonam Sobi to Chadu, Tam Ishi Society, Dombanilla, Techi to Katsu, Yamba Shabata, Tesu, Ishi to Joy, that Ishi to Zobodur, and Jivani and say to this, she did in Yuji, tuning to say some down Yaboda. Jivani and say to the any millet of a base, that she, I may do it but turned out Johnson said that the child is, and then I change to you. Terror not, Sujin, Tongan not, Terror not, Terror was a shadow, Shadow needing Nordi, Tambat Didani, Misepa Northern Day, Mimayana Germacha, Mangana, that you went to some dance. Tamanguma will share my different water, Malaya, and no longer named the Zucheni, or Carras also do, and let on a ding, Jitin Shudi, Tambay, Suraya House, nor Rafanum, Tebe nor, Chudum nor. Nor, Tebe nor, Teo was a shiver nor, Sheriff nor, or the dishes nor doing the rations, Siji, Sangoramadu, Chazam, Shero, Maris. And Suzu Jibu de Gavaya, come to Yamachi, Deon, Deshoda, and the top Kli Game Grace, that Georgie Lajate.
And so here reading through the verses from 22 onwards, when it says giving advice, maintain compassion and altruism. So there, as mentioned before, when also we should always be inspired by bodhicitta and compassion, and whenever we are trying to help the other sentient beings, and not for our own purposes, but for others. And then it says, never defame the teachings, whatever practices you admire, with aspiration in the 10 spiritual deeds, diligently dividing day and night. And then it says to us about, in verse 23, whatever virtues you gather through the 3 times, dedicate them towards the unexcelled great awakening. Disperse or dedicate your merit to all sentient beings, and utter the peerless aspirational prayers of the 7 limbs at all times. So particularly here, for beings who, practitioners who have been inspired by these virtuous minds such as compassion and bodhicitta, and then whatever sort of virtuous practices they've done, such as hearing and contemplating the teachings, and then putting those teachings into practice, then we should then dedicate them towards the unexcelled, it says there, the unexcelled great awakening, but this could be also dedicated to liberation, but then ultimately to the unexcelled state of Buddhahood. But of course, it doesn't. When it says that, it doesn't really make sense to talk about dedicating them for a state per se. What we're saying is that we're dedicating them to achieving that unexcelled, for ourselves and all beings to achieve that unexcelled state of great awakening. The great awakening is for the purpose of others. It's not purely for attaining that state. It's because of that the benefit for others by attaining that state. And then it says, spread out your merit to all sort of beings, sort of kind of dedicate out your merit to all sentient beings. So and to utter the peerless aspirational prayers, so the prayers that are connected with dedicating our merit for the welfare of others. So the merit is for others, and the sonam gilakche sonam gilakche sonam gilakche degi kaza shengi chedu
su sonam cho digi chini ka su la je joje ba sonam
sorry, I didn't hear it clearly. Yeah, so in terms of in terms of merit, we talk about the sort of accumulation of merit, which is the things that leaves a kind of imprint for the attainment of the form body, and then we talk about the accumulation of wisdom, which is leaves the sort of footprint or imprint for the handprint for the Dharmakaya, or the Dharma body of the Buddha. So here, this is mentioned in the next line, where it says, if you proceed thus, you'll swiftly perfect merit and wisdom and eliminate the 2 defilements. So by gathering together these 2 accumulations of merit and wisdom, and therefore being able to creating these sort of imprints which will allow us to attain the bodies of the Buddha, and therefore, which will help us to eliminate the 2 obscurations, and therefore to attain this enlightened state of a Buddha. So, particularly the merit, the accumulation of merit here refers to those practices such as generosity, ethical discipline, patience, joyous effort, and then the wisdom, particularly related to the wisdom of to cultivating the understanding of reality through sort of however much we're able to sort of rest in kind of equipoise with the wisdom of the nature of reality, and then with these two merits, we perfect the 2 accumulations and eliminate the defilements. And it says, since your human existence will then become meaningful, you'll attain the unexcelled enlightenment. And then it goes on to say in verse 25, it describes these wealths, or these jewels actually, that Atisha describes in the title of his text, where it says that I'll use the word jewel rather than wealth. The jewel of faith, the jewel of morality, the jewel of giving, the jewel of learning, the jewel of conscience, the jewel of shame, and the jewel of insight. These are the 7 riches or wealth or jewels. And then he goes on to say, these precious and excellent jewels are the 7 inexhaustible riches. Do not speak of these to those not human. Among others, guard your speech. When alone, guard your mind. So here, in terms of it speaks to us here at the end about these wealths are related to sort of really to the mind training practices and helping us to avoid in the mind training sort of way of practice. We're trying to avoid the 8 worldly concerns, and so these are. These are wealths which help us to engage in that, and then are in sort of inexhaustible riches to help us develop realization.
Okay, so now we finish with this text, and now I hope you have found this, the jewels. 7 jewels. So now, from this day on, whenever you are going to wear jewels, 7 jewels only. So, now when the Bodhisattva practices with such an encouragement and no expectation, not any stain of the self-cherishing and then the inwardly concerns, but probably the Bodhisattva has these jewels that their soul can be confident to benefit sentient beings. Without this, you cannot reach to the sentient beings. This you can reach to the sentient beings and teach sentient beings. So now, time to time, you need to calm down. What is this? The jewel of faith. Do I have that? And then jewel of generosity, and the jewel of shame. How do you translate?
Shame, yes.
Shame. I don't know.
Shame. It says the wealth of. One is the conscience, and one is the shame.
Shame. I don't know. It's a right translation. Feel. Once you need to see what is the disrespectful towards others, that you need to see that. And then, most important, shareable wisdom. We need to see whether we have that or not. So time to time, if this is missing, and then you lost the wealth, and you have that, you are always rich. So this is the transmissions or the teachings from Atisha. So should I read this transmission, and then people who want to receive it, so they can get it? Okay. Tsenshap Serkong Rinpoche shu do Bodhisattva mani pa avalu do Tsenshap Serkong Rinpoche tuje shimbo la cha lo lama nam la cha lo de la cha lo tesum tamje pangje zhou la nian jie zhou jia ni mo le lo la bang xin da lo zun du be la cha chen da xie xian pa yue be hong be na da dong song ni jian du song yang da yan 心里觉得到了长代里，那个长者心里出了这边长代里，那个心也原点长过了长，念当过了的帮助心， Kerata Waja, the Wa Chungshin Chua Dan Chera, Rendo So Waraja, Chamdani, Jomja, Jerusalem, Nedabaja, Migi, Junior Wanja, Dado, Deva, Dembaja, Chodan, Jumja, Medicine, Dembajan, Lobby, So Banja, Chis, Waja. 上线他们这帮着先旁边那个地点，把这就是他们帮着先，我们那个这7月7能帮着先大多嘛，那东西往嘛，见不同月结果别人主角个这刚说去年没见到，来当铺也是没见到，但别的些这个这是见特别在不嘛，比如这对些也特别着帮着些。 给回去年过着，当没得身方先刚多的，不让着不让着扛那扛浪插过帮着先敲那个来不让着敲别的没都，特别说讲这个这扛多的，别这种往的年到了，不是通过了这么行业把他们的也做不了这太大，那你跟来着。 这前头你个周面这个大道的，把搞这边扛多同学生中在这嘛也炸些拉面的嘛，这个这准备生意准备这生意是年到过来这个茶，你个东方你如果扛多茶汤鱼中这有嘛这个很多的明年性能特别。 炸些多到个这个了，那个准备这问题来说到这个题目吧，那人内心是大水的，罗心多大给的你把这，茶包那边那边这大多一等等着今年来老年的就是生中在大半年炸些对手宁波这不是，天天见到东北这青岛中国嘛话，专业我送帮这些大多中的。 那个才军都现在同学在山上没进行那个差不多同学帮着先，现在生理同学在这个同学帮着先，大多数人那个讲我每天吃着面，大多数出品图我是现在那个帮着先可以就给那个这现在大马这边在年纪，本身那个这老古我们的先抗面呢，老这个能解决能有过年纪。 切不了，不要这推崇结果，就是说拉面讲究成功，说能生鲜能拿到大多样了，对不？也没有那么结果大过了噻。但是现在说那么多一些中年做法就指望你讲谁有的美女头发挺圆的，拉面讲究头发就特别那当水准的东边，那当特别那吃药我在西边那写了名就那人的那里。 我的他把的大呢，你谁把人我人的密码也能就好像往别人东阿拉达，结果多的三拉达，第二个天不变在外面这上不一些，明边这个城市这边的边城外些这个，送过来我把得到 ，OK， so which I received from Lady Tsenshap Rinpoche, so I have, I'm so fortunate. To offer this to you all in this precious holy night, Bodhgaya, where is very close to the full enlightenment. So, don't rush for full enlightenment, rush to bring compassion towards sentient beings, and then ultimately enlightenment. Business becomes your personal. Okay. So then tomorrow we will take in this precious land. We take aspirational bodhicitta all together. So the words that we are going to say together, or maybe I will try to lead it and then you can repeat after me, which is kunjo sumla tajapchi. Kunjo sumla tajapchi. So this one. So during the offering, we need to, we can say the these 7 living prayers. That one. Yeah. For the ritual, and then we do Sangye Chözoma, and then I will explain a little bit. And then we open the door, and then as much as you can be kind and bring renunciation, you do it. And most important, at least you cannot bring great compassion and bodhicitta fully Latin, at least be gentle to yourself, and at least try to see each and every time whenever the negative emotion is coming, be strong and try to look where this is really coming, and try to connect with the Buddha's teaching, saying whether it is really rooted to the self-grasping or not. So this should be your main home forever, until you get it. And then once you try to look into this, and then you go home everywhere, you can say, in Bodhgaya I found this, and this is my home. You don't need to tell who told you that. You can tell Buddha told you that. Let maybe other people think you are crazy. Be proud. Do it. Okay, so then I will see you tomorrow. Let's do the dedication.
So we will start with the short mandala offering. And so then Tsenshap Rinpoche on page 325. Tsenshap Rinpoche, Ye Balang Ye Yoje, Kewa Yamba Dewa Yang, One Hondo Dewa Sho. Kewa Di on page 334. Kewa Di Nyodo Da Lama Sangye Buyonde, Goa Chi Yama Lupa, Te Salang Gewa Sho. And now in English, the dedication prayers on this handout. Having thoroughly investigated in accord with all that I have heard, day and night through the four reasonings, mind born of reflection on these topics and contemplation, may this discernment sever all doubts. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good, all powerful, eternity, cleansing depth of please remain until samsara ends. In all my lives, never separated from perfect gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma. By completing the qualities of the grounds and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Bodhgaya. I fully dedicate all these virtues to be able to train just like the Guru Manjushri in those realities, and just like Samantabhadra as well. I fully dedicate all of my roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by all of the gone-beyond victorious ones of the three times in order to have good conduct. With my heart going out with great compassion, in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and faith.